There have been so many episodes of Doctor Who to date, too many to count, and everyone talks about their favourites, and honestly, as much as I agree with those usual takes, I want to talk about something slightly different. Everyone and their mums has said their opinions on Blink, Heaven Sent, Love and Monsters, and why they're the best thing that's ever happened to them. So today, let's talk about the other episodes, bar the obvious ones. What are your favourite Doctor Who episodes, specifically from 2005 onwards? Let us know in the comments below. Today, in this video, that's what me and a good friend of mine, Cooper, are going to be talking about, ranking our top 5 Doctor Who episodes each, so collectively, a lovely little top 10 list. Please enjoy this cut-down ranking of all these Doctor Who episodes taken from episode 39 of our podcast, Nostalgia Bait. Be sure to check out the links below and on screen now to watch and listen to more of our Doctor Who-themed podcast episodes. In the meantime, enjoy. What's your number 5?
I really wanted to put Power of the Doctor in this position, but there's an episode that I watched recently on my rewatch that I just couldn't not put it in. Like, I really wanted... This is the one episode... Obviously, there's been so many that I've watched that have been great. This is the one that has stood out to me the most, and it's Girl in the Fireplace. This episode is fucking unbelievable.
It's great.
Now, are you wanting me to talk about this now, or you want me
I'm
to wait?
kind of debating whether we talk about this, because this is also in my top 5, but it's not 5th.
We can
We
wait
can wait, or we can go...
We can wait. I'll
You
have
can
to wait if it's
hold
in
it
your
in.
top 5.
Hold that energy.
I'll
hold
it,
it, and then we'll release when we get there.
Yeah.
My number 5 is World Nothing Time, and the Doctor Falls. These two episodes, as a sort of two-part.
I did think about these as well.
For me, I've just spent more time with it because I did that
Yeah.
Genesis of the Cybermen edit a while back, and these episodes just really stick with me. It's a perfect tribute to sort of like what Doctor Who can be like at its best, at its scariest, and it really gets down to it. It's some of the best. It's the best iteration of the Cybermen I think I've seen in Doctor Who, in my opinion. I think it's really just gets it spot on. Other than the flying Mondasian Cybermen, I love the idea of it's about evolution. That's what the Cybermen are always about. They're not necessarily a negative threat. They do what they believe is right to survive, and that's what it is. They always happen. There's no origin to the Cybermen because they are always destined to happen, and that is frightening as fuck. The origin of the Cybermen in this version of the story come from people who are dying and trying to survive and survive longer, and that's fascinating. Bill gets caught up in that. Above all of that, you've got this phenomenal like concept of time dilation in a confined space. You know, the ship moving away from a black hole, how time is moving faster at the bottom of the ship than it is at the top.
That's what my next YouTube episode should have been about when I did the Interstellar one.
Yeah, should have been. Would have popped off.
God damn it.
YouTuber coming up. It's fantastic. It's really good. And the Doctor Falls is a great ending to it. I remember when I watched Doctor Falls for the first time and I really didn't like it. But I think over the years, I have come around to it. I do appreciate it. At the time, I hated that. What I wanted, because I was a bit of a brutalist, I was like, as soon as Bill got turned into a Cyberman, I did not want to see Pearl Mackie again. And that was not because I don't like her, she's brilliant, but I was sort of like, I love the brutalist sort of, he wasn't there. He doesn't get to see her again.
Proper cut off.
But I do like the way that in which they tell the story, where it does flip between her and the Cyberman, because certain lines need to be performed with that emotion behind it, and I love it. And as much as I feel like there would have been an interesting version of this episode where you never see Bill, and it's just the Cyberman delivering all these lines, and as much as that would never work, the whole point is that the emotion has been removed, and she hasn't got that anymore. I just think, like, it works, and it's brilliant, and it is a great example. I just wish we had a little bit more time with John Sim, but I think what they did with the Master in that episode, and I think what they did with the Cybermen, I think what they did with the hopelessness of it, the Doctor hasn't got the TARDIS where he can escape, and that's it. He tries to go and get the TARDIS, he gives because it's higher up in the ship, it gives the Cybermen longer to think of a solution to stop him, and that is brilliant. He's completely trapped.
It's amazing storytelling. It's a great way of using that science. Yeah. Again, it's what you were saying about the time travel situation. It's a similar thing where it's such a clever way of using time dilation and using that. Like
when you use actual science,
and using the actual science behind it.
Yeah. And that's it. 100%. That's why I love that episode. There's a lot to it that I love, but it's a great ending for Capaldi's era, and it's a really, really strong finish for him. Yeah. Love it. What is your number 4?
So I think we've had this conversation before, and I'm pretty sure I've already spoken about why this is one of my favorite episodes. I think last time I might have said it was my favorite episode, but looking at it now, it's like I love this episode. Like I love it so much. Rings of Akaten, and I know Interesting.
No. Good shout.
We all know why Rings of Akaten is on here, okay? The speech is goated.
Yeah.
It's genuinely, like, I think it's some of my... genuinely could be at least my, like, top 3 favorite writing of all time. Like, there are certain things from certain movies and TV shows that just always stick with you. There's certain scenes with certain dialogue that will always stick with you. We've already spoken about it. It's like the Pulp Fiction, the scene in the car where they talk about the burger. That's, I think, some of the greatest dialogue writing of all time. This is, like, for me, is a similar level to that. There's the music is just fucking phenomenal. The build up to this scene where the Doctor walks in and gives this unbelievable speech about, again, it's kind of about, like, not hopelessness, but it's about, like, compassion and like almost letting go. To me, it's like letting go of a lot of stuff that he's held onto as a character.
Yeah.
And again, I definitely mentioned this before, but the line where the laws of physics were defied by a very mad man is one of the coldest lines of all time. As a person who came from a science background, like, that just it like gives me shivers to the core.
Yeah.
Like, that idea of, like, it's that imagery of just of a villain or someone who just can control a universe at their whim. Like, I love that idea, and I love that it's like it's the way that it's spoken in this scene. It's like that when he breaks down and cries at the end, like, it's the passion that Matt Smith puts into it. And I think it's a mixture of everything. I think the cinematography is great. The music's phenomenal, as I said before, and I think the acting's unbelievable in this scene as well. The whole episode's great. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the whole episode. Like, I've happily sat and watched this whole episode the whole time. It's Clara's first or second story, I'm sure.
It's her second story.
Yeah, it's
her first adventure in the TARDIS.
Yes, it's her first, which I think it's an amazing, like, first adventure of the first Universal adventure or something like that for a companion.
The thing is, I'm just kind of reflecting on the line that you were talking about there with the laws of physics line. Are you aware that that's most likely referencing quite a well-known story from Classic Who?
Is it?
Yeah, and I would advise you watch it.
I had no idea.
I don't know if this was something that you ever.
I'm being dead serious, like, dead serious, hand on heart. I had no idea this references a classic.
It's never been confirmed, but it's always implied to be
a cold line.
It's well, there's nothing been confirmed, but it kind of makes the most sense to line up with, especially if you like that concept. Watch the Three Doctors, and you can watch even better. Yeah. You can watch a cut down version of the Three Doctors and the Tales of the TARDIS thing on BBC iPlayer. The Three Doctors is, I think, 10th anniversary special or something like that. But it basically had the first Three Doctors in it, mainly 2 and 3, because Hartnell was very old at this point. But they encounter a villain called Omega, who is a Time Lord who actually was the one who invented the TARDIS in Doctor Who canon. And he is exiled into a parallel world, dimension, universe by the Time Lords. And the Doctors actually end up going there. And effectively, in that universe, the laws of physics are dictated by Omega himself. Omega.
Wow.
So if you're interested,
yeah,
that's something to check out.
It's, like I said, it's just always, like, I love the whole speech, but there's just that line has always stood out to me. And again, I think it's, as someone who did physics and did science for so many years, it just always, like, just always, it's just, I love it. I love it. Love it.
It's a great one. It's a great one. My fourth place is one that has been mentioned, and we've held off on. And it is Bad Wolf and Parting of the Ways.
Oh, I love it.
I just rewatched it recently, and it's just...
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it always sticks out in my mind as some of the best Doctor Who's had to offer. Only from a nostalgia point of view, though. I think it's great, and but I think there are flaws in the story. But I do, from a nostalgia point of view, it is something that I remember watching time and time again. The music, especially. Yeah. Like, I remember loading up DVD of this episode to entertain the 3D render of the Ninth Doctor's TARDIS, the music in the background of the menu, and clicking on the episodes which are on the TARDIS monitor screen. I remember every little detail of that, and watching it in that way is just something magical for me and nostalgic. What this episode, these 2 episodes I should say, are incredible. I think the first episode being a commentary on television, reality TV, and human nature's willingness to, you'd rather be famous and risk being killed than like not be famous at all. And even though that isn't the case, and it turns out people are just getting taken from the world, it's sort of like people would rather watch this stuff. People would watch this stuff any day, and there probably are people out there who would rather that. And that is very, very reminiscent of the culture we live in now. People risk death and do really stupid things just to be famous on TikTok and stuff, even if it means they get killed because of it.
It's so true.
And I think the way they do like satirical spins on Big Brother, The Weakest Link, sort of fashion shows, really, really interesting. And then tying that back to the Daleks, and that reveal is always brilliant to me. The controller, the girl who's strapped to the machine that the Daleks installed when she was a child, and as soon as the solar flare comes in and they can't hear her, she's like speaking to the Doctor and frantically telling her, and the music ramping up. Then you get to the end with the Ninth Doctor and his speech towards the Daleks, threatening to destroy them and then save Rose, and Parting of the Ways effectively being like a war zone. I love Bad Wolf for me is the episode.
Yeah.
Parting of the Ways has some amazing moments, but the majority of it is just they're setting up for an attack, and there's a lot of big CGI Dalek stuff, and it's incredible. I would love to see this episode get like a CGI remaster. I think it could be absolutely stunning if they did it.
The music's phenomenal.
Oh, and the music.
The
music is just it's just so good. It's unbelievably good. Like it's crazy. Like how good some of it is in terms of like the iconography of the music. And there's something special about it because as someone who intakes the Doctor Who soundtrack just pretty much regularly on the daily, basically, like I'm so familiar with these pieces of music, but I always forget that it's different. On the soundtrack, because the Series 1 soundtrack was never released. It was released in collaboration with like Series 1 and 2, and it was recorded like every other season is recorded with this gorgeous like live orchestra. Series 1 didn't have that, or at least I don't think it did, because when you watch Series 1 and you compare the music in that series to what's on the album, the album is orchestratic, but the series is very electronic, and there's something really nostalgic about listening to that.
Someone's must have done a re-edit of those episodes with.
Oh yeah, they have, and it's a really interesting listen. Yeah. And it's a really interesting listen, like the side-by-side scenes. I might show you one after this recording if I remember. But it's just fascinating because you go back to this and you're like, oh wow, there's a different wave of nostalgia that hits you when it's not exactly the music that you're expecting to hear, and it's beautiful.
I guess for some of the scenes as well, where they're being more grandiose, it probably works.
Yeah, it's really cool. And these episodes, stunning. Great bit of TV. I mean, again, you had this in your honorable mentions. What do you want to say about this one? Because there's so much you can say about it. Everything that you've said,
it's like, it's for me. It's like, honestly, I think it's one of the best like Doctor finale stories and two-parters. Yeah. Like, there's not really any other that spring to mind straight away that could even like. This is probably my favorite, to be honest. Power of the Doctor's okay. Like, it's good, but I'd probably pick this over Power of the Doctor as a finale.
There's a finality to this.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially because it's Chris's last Doctor Who story, and he's such a short run Doctor. You feel that in the performance. You feel that in the episode. It's great.
Yeah. I feel like there's also, if you watch the whole series well, there's a lot of payoff as well.
Oh, so much. So much more than I remember with the Bad Wolf stuff, but like even the fact that it's like the same like place as the game station from oh my god, the fucking long game, the worst episode of the series, but it pays off. It comes back round. It's like really interesting. Dalek gives payoff. Like,
it's also aged perfectly with how reality TV just runs the world nowadays.
Yeah, and the fact that Big Brother's still going now, like almost like 20 years later.
I'd love to see a new version of this done, like with Love Island, Big Brother.
People were talking about it with like
funny,
like The Chase when Bradley Walsh was a companion. Would have been really funny. But yeah, it's cool. What is your number 4?
Number 3.
Oh shit! You've done your number 4, right? Okay. Sorry.
Number 5, Girl in 5 Days, number 4, Rings Back 10. Number 3 is Demons of Punjab.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah,
that's interesting to me. Yeah,
Demons of Punjab. Like, I remember, obviously when when the season came out, I remember being very excited for Rosa, and I know there's a few episodes with this season where it's like good episode, mid-episode, bad episode, really good episode, mid-episode. Like, that's how it feels. And Rosa was the episode I was most excited about for this season. And I knew it was going to be like a heater. I knew it was going to be really good. And it was. But Demons of Punjab was such like it was so unexpected.
Yeah.
The music's fucking
my
unbelievable.
god, the music's great.
The story of it, it's not even, for me, it's not even like the aliens and stuff like that. It's the, like, it's a period of time that I didn't know, like, it's been a while since I've watched this episode, and I'd be interested to rewatch it again.
Yeah.
I've seen it probably 3 or 4 times already, but it's like, I don't know, I think it's a place in history, a piece of history that I didn't really know about. Like, Rosa I know about, and I think that's why I was excited for it, but it completely caught me up, like, genuinely, to tears. Like, the finale of that episode, tears. Like, unbelievable. And I just remember it's the episode that's always stuck with me from that season. Obviously, Ghost Runner has as well, and I've said,
it's
but
so
this stuck with me
real,
for a completely different reason. Yeah,
that's what hits about this one. It's so real, and it's so like unexpected. Also, it came after the Saranga conundrum, which was appalling. It's a terrible episode. So it's sort of like a real kind of return to form a little bit, and like people have their criticisms of it, which is fair. But I genuinely think that, like, I don't know, I think when you really, really watch this episode and you go through it and you pick it apart, like that ending, the betrayal of, like, it's like religion and patriotism over family that makes it so powerful.
Yeah.
And this also mix that with the expectation of Yaz wanting to see her grandmother. It's like a nice story to start off with, which then gets pulled into some massive historical events. It's a very underrated episode in terms of how it's designed. It might not be perfect in terms of its final execution, but like overall, I think the concept is brilliant.
If the concept, and do you know what, the execution is really, like, concept is perfect. The execution is, like, unbelievable. Like,
it's sublime.
It is, but that's what I'm saying. I think it's such a, like, you just wouldn't expect it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it starts off so innocent and just becomes like such a heater of an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Banger.
Crazy.
Yeah. So there you go.
You'll be happy to hear that my number 3 is Girl in the Fireplace.
Yeah.
It's an all-timer. We know this.
100%.
I'll let you talk about this.
I genuinely didn't remember this episode at all when I rewatched this.
Which is
and it's
crazy.
one of those episodes I was like,
we talked about this only a couple episodes ago, didn't we? Because we talked about it in relation to being quite scary. As growing up with this one, I had quite strong memories of it being one of the scary episodes of Doctor Who.
It's just one of those episodes where it's like, genuinely, I can't put my finger on what's so great about this episode, and I purely think it's because all of it's great. Concept, phenomenal. Execution is phenomenal. Acting and writing is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, just everything. Like, it's just such a clever, like the visuals of it, like all that. Like, it's just a heater. Like, it's great. But again, it's like, it's one of those episodes that I think when you look at it from an outlet, you'd probably go, okay, maybe. And then you watch it and you're like, holy shit. Like, I think that's what it was for me. Because I was like, it's one of those episodes that I hadn't really heard many people talk about. Because everyone goes for your blinks and stuff like that. Yeah. But you watch it and you're like,
it doesn't get talked about enough. It's great.
Yeah.
And like, there's a sort of love story in there. There's like just every part of it. I love, again, it's when it messes with time. It doesn't use time travel. It uses these time windows. And I think you jump into different parts of someone's life, I think is fascinating. I absolutely love it. And the music, again, the main theme of this episode, the piece of music called Girl in the Fireplace, which plays out especially over the final scene with the Doctor on the TARDIS reading the letter from Renette, is exquisite. So good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, just some great visuals as well. Like, I love the idea of the clockwork robots. I love that. They're incredibly sinister, but also this great, like, it's aged incredibly well, don't you think? 100%. Considering this came out in 2006, and it is a really clever commentary.
2024, and was like, this shit's great. Like,
it's not even just that. It's a phenomenal commentary on AI, I think, and robotics.
Yeah.
Like, the whole episode is an entire misunderstanding that the service crew of the ship, without anyone to lead them, have just worked out, because the name of the ship is Madame de Pompadour, that they have to then use all their energy in these time windows to go back and harvest Madame de Pompadour's brain to help the ship survive. And it's like, that is mad. And it is mad, but what a great commentary on AI being able to not ever understand how a human would think, only replicating what they think is right without any concern for emotion or feeling or anything like that. There is none of that. It's all just an algorithm making sense of something that doesn't make sense. It's taken literally.
The AI can't take and understand that you'd name something after someone as endearment. If you name something after someone, it means that they are that thing. It's like that kind of thing.
It's like you have to harvest her brain because the ship's CPU brain computer doesn't work anymore. It's clever, and it holds up now as a phenomenal commentary on AI, which is what is so incredible because that wasn't the thing then. So it's just great 100%. To see that. I think it's something like that aged so well. It just adds layers to that story, which
yeah, I agree. It's fucking again all-timer. But again, I think it's a low-key all-timer.
Yeah, it's an all-timer that people don't talk about enough. But
100%.
What is your number 2?
My number 2 is probably it's so normie. My number 2 and number 1 is so normie, but I don't care. My number 2 is Name of the Doctor and Day of the Doctor.
You put them together?
I put them together. I put them together because I feel like Name of the Doctor, it kind of leads straight into it. If that makes sense, like the reveal of Name of the Doctor.
A little bit.
If I had to pick one, I'd put Day of the Doctor 100%.
Obviously,
but I've put them together as like the season finale and then the special. Day of the Doctor is for me is definitely more I love Name of the Doctor. I love the visuals of Name of the Doctor. That's what I love about it the most. But the story of Day of the Doctor and the multi-Doctor story and the way it's written together and the way they act together is perfect. Music is phenomenal. The story, I love the story as well. I think it's such a clever story, and again, plays with time and stuff like that.
I would honestly wholeheartedly recommend, because I guarantee you won't have read it. I cannot recommend enough the Target novelization of Day of the Doctor written by Stephen Moffat.
Really?
Seriously? Because it includes elements of Night of the Doctor, Paul McGann's regeneration.
I love that as well.
It includes elements of the war that you don't get to see. It includes, and it's all told from a single character's perspective who is not revealed until towards the end. Every chapter is kind of a different... The book itself plays with the concept of a novel in terms of how it's structured. It's completely and timey-wimey, and it's Stephen Moffat all over. It is absolutely incredible. And there are scenes in the book which will make you rewatch Day of the Doctor and go, oh, that's really sick. Because it's the same writer, right?
Yeah.
There's one scene which resonates in my mind, which isn't in Day of the Doctor, and it takes place in the middle of the 11th hour, when Matt Smith runs off in his TARDIS for the first time, and he goes to, I can't remember exactly what it was, but he goes to some room, and he reflects on himself in the mirror for one of the first times he sees himself. And he reflects on the Time War, and he reflects on the War Doctor, and that ties into Day of the Doctor. And obviously, we never see that shit on screen, but, there are scenes like that, and also the unconventional narrator. I would urge you to check out the Day of the Doctor Target novelization. In fact, I actually think I own it, so I can lend it to you at Christmas.
I genuinely did not know that was a thing. I did not know there was a novelization of it.
They do unreal. The Doctor Who Target novelizations are this whole wave of things that have been around since way back when. They all look the same. They've all got this really cool style. They're all small, very small little books, but they're really, really sick in terms of detail. Yeah. They released them way back when for Classic Who. And for a lot of people like Stephen Moffat, Russell T Davies, they grew up reading them. The novelizations of episodes that didn't exist anymore. That you couldn't get on video. The missing episodes, like Evil of the Daleks, that was adapted from the script, and you could really get a feel of the story that you couldn't get from TV because it didn't exist anymore. And obviously now they do that generally, but they started doing it for new Who episodes. But that was the first one I read, and I read it in sixth form. I think I might have actually read that around the time we filmed the thing.
Yeah,
and
that made a lot of sense.
Yeah. I absolutely fucking adored it, and I think if you love this episode, which I know you do, I think you will actually really, really appreciate.
This is one of those episodes that I
intricacies
will go back
of the novel
on a regular. I'd be really interested to read that.
Yeah. I remember there's a scene in the beginning when they arrive at the art gallery and they look at the Gallifrey Falls painting. There's an inner dialogue between, there's almost an implication that the Doctor can telepathically read someone else's mind. And he's sort of
That would
seeing
surprise me.
into Kate Stewart's perspective.
Yeah.
And it sort of describes Kate Stewart as looking at the Doctor and holding resentment that he never showed up to say goodbye to her dad.
Wow.
And there's like all these elements in there where you're like, that's really interesting and like really well developed. And it's also with like hindsight. The Rose novelization as well. I'm getting a bit off track, but we'll pull it back. The Rose novelization was read as well, written by Russell T Davies. Adapted from his obviously original script and the episode of again, so much detail, and he makes it exactly what you'd expect it to be. And there's like little amendments which work really well. Obviously, with the Day of the Doctor novelization, it's written years after, when Moffat's left the show, so he has the now knowledge of
the insight
of
what
Peter
happens
Capaldi, right? And Peter Capaldi and Jodie Whittaker, and he can weave elements of that in. And all I'll say without saying too much is, in that story, all of the Doctors don't just get like a little line here and there. They are all involved in that scene in the story in separate elements, which I think is better than what we saw.
I think
on TV,
it's a great thing about novelizations, though, of anything. It's like you haven't got a limit. Like, and I think that's what it's such. You've taken such a great episode anyway. That is like phenomenal. That is generally, I think, probably close to a 10 out of 10. And you just give it another layer. And again, it's one of those things where you can then go back and watch it and be like, oh shit, like.
Well, it's like the whole thing. It's a thing with Rose, right? As I was saying, is like with that novelization, like, you know, the bit in with Clive and the shed, and he's sort of showing off his like the photos of like the Ninth Doctor, and he's like, oh, it's a name passed down generations, like father and son. In the TV, it's just the Ninth Doctor, and they wanted to keep it simple. But in the novelization, Clive's got a record of loads of Doctors, and it intricately describes different versions of the Doctor. So you've got like Rose looking at these pictures of like a man in a bow tie and a fez, you know, a man in like a long coat, you know, and like Peter Capaldi's described, Jodie Whittaker's described.
Really?
You've got like other versions of the Doctor which we've never seen.
Yeah.
And there was one which was described as like a bald black female Doctor with like some sort of like like device or some shit, and I think it was like a wheelchair, like electric wheelchair bound version of the Doctor and stuff. So they put in all these things where it's like
cool.
They can have fun with it,
and
they can run with that, and I think it's really cool. So Day of the Doctor is excellent. I feel like I've waffled about the books, but my God, read it. It's so good. I'll lend it to you Christmas if you want. It's
sick. What is your number 2? Numero dos?
My number 2 is Turn Left.
Really?
So Turn Left for me is one of the best Doctor Who stories of all time. One of the best one of the best Doctor Light stories, especially. I love it. Again, it plays with the laws of time and sort of these wonderful high concept sci-fi pieces. It's like the butterfly effect. You go back in time and you get Donna to turn one way over another, and it completely changes the course of history. The Doctor is killed. She wasn't there to save him. And then you see 3 or 4 series worth of Doctor Who, but you see it with the Doctor not being there, what would have happened. And I'm like, this is really, really clever. Whenever I watch it, I'm like, this is so rewarding after having watched series of the show. And I think that's what Doctor Who really excels in for me in the Russell's first era, I should say, is this gorgeous attention to detail when it comes to continuity. Like, I love it. Even in the beginning of Love and Monsters, love or hate that episode, I love that you see Elton's life and you see him witness like the Slovene ship crashing into Big Ben in series 1. You see him witnessing like other stuff that's happened during like the last couple years in terms of why he's looking for the Doctor, why he's, you know, interested in all the sci-fi stuff. You see it through their eyes, and I love that. And it was the same with Turn Left in a way, where you just get to see from Donna's perspective, having never met the Doctor, what events take place and what happens and what would have happened without the Doctor there. Beyond that, the music is excellent. This is a real tragic aspect. You know, the implication that, and I don't know when the last time you saw this episode.
I've probably not seen this episode since it came out. Genuinely.
You will have way new context watching it as an adult and realizing what some of the stuff meant, because I'm like, oh
yeah.
There's a classic bit where it's obviously like at a certain point in the episode, Donna and her family because London basically gets wiped out in a nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
Because of the Titanic, they all get moved to Leeds, and they live in a house with this Italian family, and they basically live on like the kitchen floor, and that's their thing. And there comes a point where the Italian family are like leaving, and they're being taken into like an army truck, and the Italian man is very happy and all that sort of thing, and very, completely normal, and Donna's like really confused, like what's going on, and Wilf is crying, and Wilf is like, it's happening again, and the implication there is that these people are being sent to death because they're immigrants, and I'm like, wow, that is some heavy fucking storytelling for Doctor Who, and I'm like, this is what I love to see from Russell, and I'm hoping we see more of this in his new era. That level of storytelling that wasn't needed in this story, but it was included, and it tells something very, very interesting about society, and again, it hasn't aged badly at all, because I think that's still where a lot of people see issue, especially in our country. There's a lot of people who see issue in things like race and immigration, and I think it's still very relevant and culturally like appropriate. And episodes like that hit hard, and that episode hits fucking hard. Not to mention as well the ending, which is phenomenal, where she fights back, she wakes up out of it, and she's sat with the Doctor talking and kind of describing Rose, and he's sort of clocking on, and then she tells the Doctor that she heard the words "bad wolf." Seriously, like, that scene gives me chills, because they fire into this version of All the Strange Creatures, which is a track from series 3, but they fire into the running theme from that era, but with like, this elevated, like,
with like the bad wolf motifs,
with a sort of higher a higher sort of, like, I don't know what it is, but there's just more instruments, it's louder, it's faster, it's scary, it's frightening, and it's fucking wonderful. It's a great cliffhanger. So I love that. Love that. Very nice. Very, very, very nice. Number 1.
Do you have any guess what my number 1's going to be?
Hang on. There's got to be some. I've got a guess.
Go on then.
11th Hour.
Hell yeah, baby.
This is the sign of knowing someone for that long, is I could just.
Bro, this episode's just clear. Let's what else do I say about this episode? It's just clear.
Yeah.
It's the greatest. It's the greatest First Doctor episode. I don't think anything comes close to it. Do you think?
As a Doctor debut story, no.
Yeah. As a Doctor debut
story. It clears Christmas Invasion. It clears Deep Breath. It clears Woman Who Fell to Earth. It clears Star Beast. It clears fucking Church on Ruby Road. It does. It's a great episode.
I think for me as well, like, I think I take this from 2 angles. One of them was me, who was like so gutted that David Tennant was leaving as the Doctor when I was a kid, and was like, Matt Smith, fuck that guy. Obviously, I was like, fucking God knows what age. So
I remember I was exactly the same. I was like,
bro, I was
God,
like, nah,
he's too young.
I'm done.
He's trying to copy David Tennant's
over.
vibe.
I was like, I'm not watching it. And then watched 11th Hour, and it was like, GG, game over.
Yeah. It's exactly the same experience with that.
It's so, for me, it's so simple as a debut episode.
Yeah.
You don't need anything big and flashy. You don't need any existing monsters. You don't need any of that. It's perfect casting. Matt Smith's perfect as the Doctor. Karen Gillan, it's just like, it's the dynamic, I think, because you instantly know when they come on screen that it's going to be a good dynamic, and I think that bleeds over to the rest of the episode. It's like, I don't even know what to say. Like the music's fucking, I love the Matt Smith's like the running theme from that series. Again, it's like it feels high stakes. Yeah. But again, it's just so simple. It's funny. It's a funny fucking first episode as well.
It's good.
Fish Fingers and Custard is timeless.
They got it nailed.
Will always be timeless.
And I think what works best about it as well is it wasn't the first episode they filmed, which I think helps because you've already developed the chemistry between Matt Smith and Karen Gillan. So when you see them on screen together here, they click immediately. Even though they kind of shouldn't, but they do, and it works. And that's the best thing about this is. Yeah, and Matt Smith is absolutely incredible in this. And
it has the range, it has the comedy, it has the serious, it has the comedy moments, it has the sadness and the serious, it has what feels like high stakes, but then you also get the sternness and seriousness with like the finale of when Matt Smith steps into being the Doctor. Yeah. And is stealing people's clothes, which still makes me laugh to this day. Yeah. He's just nicking people's clothes and then talks about the Doctor and he goes through the archive and is showing all the previous incarnations. It's just, there's just so many different things and I love it every time I watch it.
It's so good. It is an incredible first episode. And I think there's so many moments of that. I think that's the first time when I watched Doctor Who and I was like, I am comfortable with change. I obviously hated it when David Tennant left,
Yeah.
but it clicked for me because I was like, this is Doctor Who. He's got a different Sonic, he's got a different costume, he's got a different TARDIS, exterior and interior. Everything's new, but it still felt like Doctor Who, and I think that's where it really clicked for me that this is...
I just remember watching End of Time, and I remember the regeneration.
Yeah,
I remember
me too.
being like, I'm not watching from the,
I remember
this is it.
bawling my eyes out, crying at David Tennant's
I don't think I was
Regeneration.
crying, but I remember just being like, I'm not watching. This is where I stop. I'm not watching the rest of this.
It's crazy.
And
isn't
then
it?
it's...
How old would
yeah.
you have been then?
Mate, I have no idea. What time did end? What year did End of Time
New
come
Year's
out?
Day, 2010.
I was 8 years old. No, I was 9 years old. No, 7 years
You
old.
certainly weren't 9. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Sorry, 7 years old. New
Yeah,
Year's Day
because
2010.
I was 8.
Yeah, I was 7-year-old.
God. Yeah.
And I genuinely do remember it.
That's the peak age.
Because I
for
remember-
Doctor Who, though, I think.
Because I still remember I remember Stolen Earth and Journey's End. Like, I
Yeah.
remember the big red Dalek. And I remember
Yes.
like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Like-
yeah.
I remember Davros, but I had no Davros was new to me. Because obviously I didn't know Castle Q or anything like that. Like, it was that kind of like, yeah, I just remember I remember having the toy of the big red Dalek, and then I
Yeah.
remember End of Time, and I remember being like,
Yeah.
I'm done. Like, doesn't get any better. Like,
It doesn't get any better than that. And then you were like, yeah, GG.
GG, yeah, 11th hour, GG.
Yeah. And then Beast Below was great as well. Like, they continued that track record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I say more?
I
No.
don't think you need to. My number one is... my number one today is this. But it could be any other episode. And there's so many episodes. Like, even off the back of that, just like Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone as a two-parter is brilliant.
The
I
one
want to just
thing
mention that, because that is
yeah.
phenomenal.
The one thing I haven't mentioned in this, and obviously I picked Power of the Doctor for a Sasha Dewan Master story, is I've not mentioned any of the River stories, but that is purely because I genuinely can't pick a single River song episode.
Yeah.
Like, every single episode that she touches is gold. like,
Yeah.
that's how I feel about that character. And again,
It's great.
I've mentioned it before, my favourite non-Doctor character in the whole franchise.
Yeah.
The story and it's specifically the writing for it is
Mate,
perfect.
when you get to the Silence of the Library Forest of the Dead for the
Bro,
first time in a few years, that's gonna hit fucking
Yeah.
hard, let me tell you. Anyway, no, my first place episode comes from series 1 of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It's the second thing on this top 5 that's series 1. I think that says a lot.
It does, yeah.
Written by Paul Cornell.
Series 1 you can't, sorry, Series 1 you can't, like, just write off, like,
Yeah.
there's so many people who I know who will go, I'm just going to skip season 1, but you
Nah,
cannot
don't.
skip- genuinely,
Do not. You can't
miss
skip
out
9.
on so
Never
much
skip 9.
gold. You miss out on so much gold if you skip season 1.
Yeah. It's almost every episode's brilliant, I think.
Yeah.
Bar maybe the long game, I think they're all excellent.
Did you put it as, like, your third favourite series or something like that? when we
Some-
did the
I
ranking?
think
it was high.
I think it might have been top.
Oh, it might have been one, actually. Yeah,
think it might have
I
been
think
top.
it was.
I think it's underrated as fuck. Anyway, this episode that I want to talk about is Father's Day.
Yeah.
Father's
Yes.
Day is, I don't know, something that I just appreciate more as I get older is that there's something so brilliant about this. It's got the time travel aspects, it's got the butterfly effect aspects, but it's also so grounded in reality. It's all about the idea of family and a lost parent. You know, Rose has grown up without a dad, and she's honestly, like, this makes me cry like a fucking baby when I watch this. I genuinely, like, it just does. It is so heartfelt and real.
Yeah.
Like, I just love it, and I absolutely just,
Yeah.
there's something about it. I can't even put my finger on it. It's like the episode starts with, you know, young Rose having a story told to Jackie about stuff, and it's all about, like, how amazing the dad is and how amazing Pete is. And then when Rose goes back in time, they're all lies. You know, he wasn't successful, he wasn't clever, he messed around, he cheated, and it's sort of the imperfect version of her dad that she didn't realise existed. She had this idolised version. Even the little details like that. There's a scene very early on where she gets out the car with Pete and Jackie's there and starts accusing Rose of being his latest fling.
Yes.
And she just watches them argue, and she is just, like, in tears. And I'm like, because it's that idolised version of her dad and their parents' relationship
just disappears,
falling apart in a second. Not to mention all these other wonderful moments. I love the moment in the church with the doctor and the soon-to-be wedded couple, when they're like, oh, you know, we know we're not important. here and all that sort of thing. And the Ninth Doctor gives them this speech about this. It's fantastic. It's really, really great from Eccleston, because he's just like pissing about and doing his thing, and he's trying to save the day. He doesn't know what he's doing. He hasn't got a plan, and he's trying to work it out. But he takes time to comfort these people and tell them that, like, you know, he's like, standing in the rain outside of a club, 3 a.m, getting a taxi home. I'm never gonna have a life like that. And he's like, you are important, like, you are special, like, just, it's that joy for life that the Doctor has, I think, is wonderful, and that's perfectly.
Like the way he delivers dialogue, it's unique. Like the way he pauses in sentences and stuff, it's so unique. Like, I can hear it in my head when you say it.
Yeah,
it's so good.
It's so good. And then the whole thing, the whole climax of Pete realizing that he's Rose's dad, but also the Doctor dying effectively, and then Pete realizing that actually the Doctor had worked it out, but tried to save Rose from having to lose her dad a second time, and tried to find another way out. Yeah. Instead of just telling the truth, which would have been, if Pete gets hit by that car, everything's fine, everything reverses. Pete worked that out because he is an intelligent man, and he became the version of Rose's dad that she needed and she thought that he was. And then we realise that about the Doctor, is that he's been horrible to Rose the whole episode because he takes it out on her because she fucked it up. But all along he was trying to protect her, and he was trying to help, and he was trying to make sure that she didn't have to go through that again. And it's a tough love, but it's done in a perfect way. This episode for me is perfect, not to mention the music, but the emotional side of things. It's incredible, and it brings tears to my eyes every time. It's such a brilliantly grounded story in you were brought up without a dad. What if you could go back and speak to him before he died?
Yeah.